what does our life look like in Norway? If you're interested in knowing like what is it like to be an American abroad in Norway or just in general in Europe, the work-life balance here I would say is the best I've experienced anywhere I've worked. They are pretty strict on an 8 to 4 schedule. Like they only want you in the office from 8 to 4. They, from my experience, like even lock the doors after 5. They don't want people in the office after 5. You have to go home. And I see my kids are at something called Barnahaga. It's like a pre-kindergarten from the age of 1 until 6. And, most of the parents are picking up their kids every day around 3 o'clock. So you see people really leaning into this lifestyle that's slower and it's not as demanding with the work hours. And I have to say from experience as well that people are just as productive, I think. You don't really see burnout happening, again, from my experience, but people just seem to be a lot happier. They're always rated one of the happiest countries on earth. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Monica Verga Alborno, and this is the Wand Her Wild podcast, a space for modern mothers reclaiming their wild, living with intention, and redefining what it means to feel fulfilled while raising a family. Here we explore mindful motherhood, conscious parenting, feminine rhythms, and the power of self-discovery. Guided by curiosity, we share honest stories, soulful conversations, and actionable steps you can weave into your full, everyday lives. Hey, so I am coming to you from a end of summer night here in Norway, and I'm a little bit bundled up. I've got like a sweater on, and yes, this is our summer, the end of summer, but it's nice and cozy. It's still like a little bit of that twilight this time of the year where the sun doesn't really ever fully go out of the sky. I mean, it's at this point kind of changing now, but it's nice that it's technically 10 p.m. when I'm recording this and it's still pretty light out, which is cool. I love that in the summer here. So why am I talking to you right now? Over the summer, Business Insider actually reached out to me and they wanted to interview me about what it's like to raise a family in Norway as an American. And I thought it was pretty cool that they asked that and they said their readers are interested in it. And I thought, well, maybe our listeners, you are also interested because I don't always talk too much about what it's like to be abroad and kind of how all of this has played out and what it's like here. So I wanted to share a bit about it. And I'm also going to link the article to Business Insider if you want to read it. It's just all about how my life here in Norway is raising kids as an American. So you can go over and check that out. I will link it. But in this episode, I kind of just wanted to talk to you about what it is like and kind of like rewind a little bit back to how this all happened, because I'm hearing more and more all the time that people are starting to move abroad looking for something different, just with how polarizing the States have been these recent years. But I moved abroad before it was cool. I moved abroad all the way back in 2011. So it's gonna be 14 years that I have been an expat, not only in Norway, but a lot of other places around the world. And I kind of just wanted to start with like how did that happen, right? So I, like many people, went to college and decided to study something. So I was studying engineering. I applied to a bunch of energy companies because I was studying petroleum engineering. And there was one in particular that I really wanted to work for, short story here. And they had a lot of international opportunities. And I thought that was so cool that I could be working and traveling and just go see the world. It's an American English speaking company. So that was really cool that, I had that kind of like safety net of not having a language barrier and having some people in every country wherever I would go that I would kind of have this connection with because we all worked for the same company. So I thought it was so cool. I ended up getting the job with them and moving to Kuwait. So I headed out to Kuwait in the Middle East. And that's where I went in September of 2011. And then I just never came back. But I lived there for a little over 2 years. And that's where I met my husband. He's from Saudi. He's Saudi Arabian. And then our company after some time, moved us to sub-Saharan Africa, and we lived in Angola. And between this time as well, they were sending me on like shorter trips places. Like I lived in Siberia and Russia for a little while. I lived in Abu Dhabi and UAE for a bit. When I lived in Africa, I also was managing a territory of 36 African countries. And we had, I think, 13 active countries when I was there. So I would travel a lot for business, and I lived in the Ivory Coast. I lived in Equatorial Guinea. I lived in Gabon. I traveled to South Africa quite a bit, Mozambique, Tanzania, Congo, all for work. So that was kind of cool that I got to go to a lot of places most people don't get to go for vacation. A lot of them I was in convoy situations, gated communities, armored cars, these kinds of things, right? So it wasn't always like the most safe places, but also a lot of really beautiful places too, and a lot of untouched beauty that hasn't gotten into the tourist circuit yet, which was cool. So anyway, we were ready to have a change, and we ended up in Norway. So our company relocated us to Norway in 2018, and we thought we were going to keep moving. We thought we were just going to stay here for a little while and then keep on going. But, it's 2025 and we are still here, and we are homeowners here, and we're really like integrating ourselves into being here long term for the long haul. And our kids are learning, they're bilingual, they're learning Norwegian, they're developing friendships here. We're developing friendships here with other families, and we just really are falling in love with the culture and the country. And so we're kind of transitioning to being immigrants in a way. I don't know if I can say that officially because we don't quite know what the future holds, but we don't have any immediate plans to go somewhere else. And so, so that's kind of our story of how we ended up in Norway. And I'm not Norwegian. I didn't move here recently. I didn't just move here on a whim. My company originally moved us here after having this whole full circle of different countries and continents, and really made us appreciate living here, I think, even so much more than if I had just gone from the States to here, because of everything that we went through in between and everything we experienced, which is a story for another day. But I mean, like, wow, when you just see how things move here and the systems they have in place here versus other parts of the world, even including the States, I have to say, you just feel really grateful that you get to live in a place like this. So I want to talk a little bit about some things. So maybe like if you're wondering like what made me want to move abroad. And so I think, back then I was like in my mid-20s, and I had been doing the whole like party scene, like the friends thing, and just going the whole like college experience, I guess you could say. Going to football games. I went to Penn State, like a big football school, big party school, and was kind of just ready for something else. Like I kind of was like, all right, like there's got to be more than this. It's cool, but like I'm over it kind of thing. And of course, Kuwait is a dry country. So when I moved to Kuwait, no more partying, no more drinking, which was fine. But I think what actually, in all seriousness, what took me abroad was I really am into experiential learning. Like, I just think haven't quite had a definition for it till recent, but like, I always want to learn about something by experiencing it. And I just thought it would be so cool to learn about other countries, other cultures, religions by experiencing it, by actually going there and being immersed in it. And I thought that sounded so cool. I've also really always, I have to admit, like living out of my comfort zones. Like I tend to do things that are really uncomfortable and challenging. Like I go after the challenge. I like to challenge myself. So I think that was a big part of it too, was like I was getting too comfortable doing what I was doing, and I needed to go put myself in a situation that was a challenge. And the adventure. A lot of times like to refer to myself as like a tamed version of Indiana Jones. That would be like ideal lifestyle. Like I mean, probably not right now with kids, but I feel like that's so cool. the adventure of reading about things in a book and going on some type of quest and caves and chases and this lifestyle that is so, yeah, just so movie style adventurous. It seems so cool and so far out there. And I'm always fascinated by Pirates of the Caribbean, living a life that's so uncharted. My life is not like that in any way, but when I was moving abroad and could just pick up my suitcase at any moment to go somewhere else when the company needed us to, it was a little bit of that. It was always bit of that feeling of not quite being settled and not quite knowing where in the world I was gonna end up next. And so I think that's what got me moving. And then what got me to stay. So now it's 2025. I'm still abroad. Haven't gone home. To visit, but haven't wanted to move home. And now I think I kind of just have the bug. Like, I'm really enjoying experiencing these different cultures and ways of life. And of course, it's much easier now in 2025 to connect with people that we have in other countries, our family. It's easy to travel on a plane and see them if we need to. We have video chat. So, it's easier to stay connected now, but yeah, I still kind of have that adventurous spirit, I guess, in me that wants to keep exploring and traveling. And now that my kids are getting a little bit older, they're going to be 3 and 5 this fall. We're in a great place right now in Northern Europe to be able to travel in a couple hours to like a lot of different countries. And we're halfway between the States and the Middle East as well to, bring the kids to Saudi and visit family. So it just kind of feels right. It feels right to be where we are right now too. I think that's just the ultimate answer. And so I want to talk a little bit about like, what does our life look like in Norway? If you're interested in knowing like what is it like to be an American abroad in Norway or just in general in Europe, I can kind of share a little bit, like more specifically Norway, but kind of how it is, being abroad as well. And so like, what does our typical week look like? It probably looks a lot like yours does with your kids, like a little bit different, probably a little bit comfier. The work-life balance here, I would say, is the best I've experienced anywhere I've worked. They are pretty strict on an 8 to 4 schedule. Like they only want you in the office from 8 to 4. They, from my experience, like even lock the doors after 5. Like they don't want people in the office after 5. You have to go home. And I see my kids are at something called Barnehage. It's like a pre-kindergarten from the age of 1 until 6. And most of the parents are picking up their kids every day around 3 o'clock. So you see people really leaning into this lifestyle that's slower and it's not as demanding with the work hours. And I have to say from experience as well that people are just as productive, I think. You don't really see burnout happening, again, from my experience, but people just seem to be a lot happier. They're always rated one of the happiest countries on earth. And so I would say that's part of our week, is that just the work-life balance is different. So I'm now self-employed. I left my company that I was working for a year ago, but I still go, I drop off the kids around 8 every day and I pick them up around 3. Safety. I would say the safety, knock on wood, is pretty good here. Like people seem to be pretty open about letting their kids roam. I've definitely seen these like social media videos that are totally true. Like, yes, we do put our kids in strollers and put them outside to nap, babies, even when it's really cold. So even until now, every single day, my son, he takes his nap outside in his stroller at Barnehage. And they're outside in the daycare, like within a fence. But like a lot of people, like you'll see them leaving outside their door at their house or at a restaurant. And it's totally a normal thing. And they just have a lot of layers on if it's cold and snowy. They've got all their like wool bundles and stuff. And, that's how they sleep. You see a lot of kids walking to school, taking the public bus. There's no school buses here. So the kids that have to go further away to go to school, they use the public bus. The public buses like come right up into the neighborhoods here. I live in a pretty like rural-ish community, and the closest bus stop to me is like a 5-minute walk. So the buses are pretty easy to get to. The kids use them and they walk to school. They also have electric scooters that are communal, that are just kind of like around the roads places that you can pick up and use, and then you drop off when you don't need it and the next person takes it. So I see kids using those all the time as well. My kids do not walk by themselves right now because they're 3 and 5, but when they start school, I don't know, we'll have to see. Their school is about like a 15-minute walk from here, so I don't know, we'll have to kind of see how that feels. I think our daily rhythms are like pretty average of most families. Like we have breakfast at home, or I'll pack them a breakfast to have when they arrive at Barnahaga. I come home and do my work for the day, take the dog for a walk. Then I usually go back and pick them up around 3. And during the day, they are at a program that is, the easiest way I would explain it is kind of like a Montessori forest school based program. Like they do a lot of self-led learning. They let the child lead, and they spend a lot of time outside. And it rains here a lot. We are the rainiest city in Europe, in Bergen. And yeah, they don't care if the weather they do not care if the weather is cold. They're outside. So I'm washing a lot of clothes, drying a lot of clothes. They have lots of gear. They've got like rain suits, wool layers, rain boots, like extra pairs of clothes, merino wool socks, like just all the things, like anything you can think of that prevents you from getting wet and also keeps you warm. Like they've got it on. So there's a lot of laundry happening, maybe a little bit more, dare I say, than somewhere that doesn't have all the rain and cold like we do. But I also think it's great that they get outside and they're so used to just being in that type of environment. So what else? The school systems. Okay, so what I know so far from my experience is Barnahaga, which I just explained, and that is for kids that are 6 and under. It's kind of like a pre-kindergarten, but they're still learning some things. Like they do a lot of physical activity, a lot of movement outside, but they also are learning to write. They are doing art. They are doing some music. They learn like the body parts, the solar system, like some things like that really early on. And I should caveat here as well and say that it's all in Norwegian. So my kids have learned Norwegian and are bilingual just from going to that school. They had to learn. When they turned 1, they started going there. And we speak English at home, and then they are learning Norwegian at Barnahaga because that's what they speak. So that's actually been really cool for them to integrate into the local community better, and just from really early on age, like understand how things work here and feel like they're a part of it. And so I also get the question a lot, like, how much does all of this cost? And so Barnahaga, it's because they're not in like a structured school yet, you do have to pay for it, but it's like very minimal, I would say, versus like other countries, especially the States. So it's around, I think we're paying like around, it's around 450 US dollars a month for 2 kids. And that's 8 hours a day. And they get a warm lunch, and they like bake fresh bread. And yeah, that's all the programming and stuff is included in that cost. So I think that's kind of amazing. And then the government also gives us a monthly stipend that's around $350 that can go towards whatever, but you could say it goes towards that. So yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about the quality of the school and the care. It's about a 1-to-5 ratio for the older kids, and then the smaller ones, it's a 1-to-3 ratio. So when you think of all that, it's like pretty amazing. So that's for me another reason where I'm like, okay, no, I don't need to go back to the States when I get this kind of care. And so when they do move to school, like a graded school, it's public, and there really aren't private schools here. Like, I don't think there are technically private schools, but they're very, very minimal, and it's not something that people generally use. Like, I went to a private school. I went to a Catholic school in high school, and it's a pretty common thing where I'm from in New Jersey. Like, quite a lot of people go to private school. You don't see that here. Like, everybody goes to public school. I don't even know where the private school is. You probably would have to drive 30 minutes to get to it. I do know that there's one international school that is near where I used to work, and that really it's an English-based school, and it really caters to expats, because we would have sent our kids there if we were still going to be like mobile. But then when we decided to stay, we don't have access to that school unless we want to pay for it. So there is a private school that is an international school, and that's where anybody here goes that has kids who are living here temporarily, who are only speaking English, and they're probably going to be moving again in a few years. So you'll kind of mainly see people there like that, or if you want to get that international accredited education. But from what I see, the Norwegian education system is pretty great. And so, yeah, I mean, what I've heard about the schools from not experiencing it myself so far, but just from hearing people talking about it and like a little bit about what I know so far just from the country, there are not a lot of standardized tests. And there are not a lot of grading systems. And I don't think they actually get formal grades until, like, I want to say 8th grade. Don't quote me on that, but it's like they have to be a bit older to start receiving letter grades. They lean into a lot more of like expressive feedback, like with more script, like more like descriptive feedback about their grading versus like just receiving a number or a letter. So I think for me, we'll have to kind of see when my kids are in it, but for me, that sounds really great. I think a lot of us can probably agree that there's a lot of stress on kids with the grading system at such a young age, and a number really doesn't tell you very much. Like, I remember being really frustrated with sometimes like a teacher giving me, because I took academics so seriously that if I got something under a certain grade, I would always wonder, like, what did I do wrong? And they don't really tell you unless you go up and ask, and then you get kind of nervous to ask, and then sometimes they don't really even have a good reason, and it's just it's kind of strange. So I think it sounds like they do a lot more of like, it's not a lot of like multiple choice type stuff. It's more like there could be feedback given to it, right? So I don't know. For me, that sounds pretty cool, but I also will have to tell you in a couple years when we're in it more. I also don't think they have nearly as much homework as we have. And I do have to say, like, I worked here in this country for 7 years before I resigned. And I mean, all the locals that I worked with were public school educated, went to college here in Norway, and were extremely intelligent and well educated. So, I mean, and everybody that I know around here seems to be very well educated. So, just sharing from experience what I'm observing. And so, I guess another thing, college as well is usually tuition free. So, I think there are a couple private universities that there might be a fee for, but pretty much every college, if you are a Norwegian citizen, you have access to for free. So like for me in the engineering sector that I was working in here, we were recruiting people from NTNU, which is the Norwegian Technical University. And it's like a very, I would say, great university. I was interviewing students there, and they were really well educated. They have every engineering discipline and science, and there's also a university hospital in our city that we live in. And I think a lot of Americans actually come here to study abroad, but all of that is public and all of that is tuition free, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. And yes, we do pay more in taxes. Our taxes can be almost 40% sometimes, depending on your family income. But when you get all of these things, it doesn't feel like you're throwing that tax money away. You do really, really feel like you're getting these amazing benefits from it. Again, from my personal experience. Okay, so a couple other things. I wanted to tell you about healthcare. What is healthcare like? Okay, so we have public healthcare. There is, there technically is some private healthcare. Like, you could go to some clinics that you have to pay for if you want to just like get right in the door. But pretty much everybody uses public healthcare. I don't really hear people talk about private. We've used public since we've been here, and it's been pretty amazing. And we've also had 2 children here. So I've gone through 2 pregnancies here, one of them during the pandemic. With the first one, I had an emergency C-section. With the second one, I had an unmedicated VBAC and was very supported through both of those. I was telling Business Insider when they were interviewing me with my emergency C-section, like when I was still in the hospital, they had somebody come in, a pelvic floor health specialist, who was like giving me different like exercises and things I could do to heal. And we had nurses both times around come and do home visits for us. When we had the baby's newborn, we had a lactation consultant come visit me with my first baby in the hospital. And we even had a sleep consultant that we were able to get after a couple months because my son, my second one, he was kind of on like a weird, he was like kind of nocturnal. He wasn't really sleeping at night and was like sleeping during the day. We were really struggling with the sleeping with him. And we had a sleep consultant come. This was free. We just had to ask our health nurse, for support. And then they scheduled somebody to come to our house and meet with us a couple times. So that was really cool. And then when you're pregnant, you have like these controls that they set up throughout your pregnancy to check on the baby through ultrasounds, and you meet with your midwife a lot. And I would say as well here, with just in general, the way that they treat pregnant women is that it's not very clinical, and it's not very, like, they don't act like you're sick or anything's wrong with you. They act like this is a very natural thing and that you also know a lot yourself. And so they really treat it like that. There's just a lot of conversations that happen, and there's not a lot of interventions. They have a very low C-section rate. If you do need that support, it's there, but they really lean into doing things naturally, again, because it is public, and things like that cost more money. So they don't have any agenda here to be making money off you either. It would just be costing the country more money if they are giving you, a scheduled C-section, for example. Like, they would really never do that unless it was medically required. And so, so that's kind of been interesting to see. I mean, you are able to get whatever pain relief you want. With my first one, my second one was a lot faster. So I don't remember getting any pain relief with that one. But yeah, no, I didn't have any with that. But with Mahira, I had acupuncture first. Like, I wanted to do natural pain relief. So they had somebody come in and do like acupressure needles. Forget what else we did. I had like a jacuzzi bath in my room so I could labor in water for a while. And then I did end up getting an epidural with my first one because the labor was so long. It was like, I think the whole thing was about 30 hours at the end when I had the emergency C-section, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so that is available too if you do ask for it. So anyway, my experience, and then when I wanted the VBAC as well, I'll just add, like, I got to go to the hospital and have several meetings with the staff there and talk about how I wanted to have an unmedicated VBAC and the risks, and making a plan and just making sure we were all comfortable with it. And I just felt very supported, and that everybody was very good at communicating and really like seeing me and hearing what I wanted to do, and also talking about the risks and making sure we all like felt good about it. So yeah, I had pretty good experiences, I would say, with both births. And yeah, this is another thing that I just see here is so amazing. And then the other thing I'll just add is that my daughter was in the ICU last winter, and she was intubated. So she had a really bad case of pneumonia, and she was intubated in the ICU. So we also experienced the pediatric like emergency care in the pediatric hospital, and it was pretty incredible. Like, she had 2 nurses around the clock with her. She had people come in and massaging her for circulation because she couldn't move. She was intubated. The staff was just incredible there. And then they moved her to the children's hospital when she was recovering, and they had clowns on bicycles, like, going around the hospital to like cheer people up. They're like cheer clowns. And they had this huge toy room, and like the food was also really great. Everybody had their own room with these floor to ceiling glass windows, and it was pretty amazing. And we spent a lot of time there, more than I'd cared to ever spend. And I don't want to go back there again. But it's good to know that that's there. And yeah, at some point, maybe I have shared about this before, but like the whole thing that happened was really amazing. The rapid response that they had with her. So I've been really happy with the healthcare. I would say that they don't like give you medicine just for the heck of it. So if you do have anything that's viral, they're not going to give you pain relief for it. They're just going to tell you to gargle salt water, do natural remedies. So, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, again, because they're not profiting off of you, but it can be a little bit more uncomfortable when you have something that you want to get pain relief for. They generally tell you to go home unless it's bacterial, right? So yeah, so that's just, I've noticed has been a bit different. So anyway, that's healthcare stuff. And what else did I want to say? Well, you know what? I think the last thing I just wanted to touch on, because this is getting to be a long recording, I wanted to touch on and just share about how we're keeping relationships with our family. Because yeah, if you're considering moving abroad, that is something that's kind of difficult. And I think I touched on this earlier on. Like, it's become easier. Like when I first started traveling in college, there were no phones, right? There was no Wi-Fi. So you had to go to an internet cafe and use a landline phone or send an email from an internet cafe to check in with your family when you were traveling. This is aging me big time. But that's how I remember traveling when I went to Africa and Southeast Asia in the 2010s, or even before then, in the 2000s. And, now it's nice that we can do video calls and we can also travel pretty easily. They've had now like these low budget airlines that have come up that have just become more affordable. And yeah, I mean, you can make it work. So for us, what we do is we usually at least once a week, we'll talk to both the families in Saudi and in New Jersey and do a video call with the kids. And then we just really plan certain times of the year to get together. The Saudi family, it's always been a little bit more challenging because they just the age of my niece and nephew there, and they're working, so it's a bit harder for them with the school year to travel and stuff. And for us to get there as well, we haven't made the trip yet with the kids. But sister-in-law is coming here actually when I'm recording this. Probably by the time this is out, she'll be here. So that's gonna be nice. She's gonna be visiting for 2 weeks to see the kids. And they were here last year as well, last June. And then my parents usually come a little bit more frequently. Like they're coming for the kids' birthdays in October. They spend Christmas with us. And then we've now started a new tradition where every July we are spending it in New Jersey to really just show the kids like what the American summer looks like. So we did that this summer and that was really fun. So I guess what I would say about that is that you have to just make an effort. It's not as easy as just I'll see you when I see you. It has to be more of an effort to figure out the time difference and coordinate a time to call when you do your video calls and really committing to seeing them at certain times of the year and making a plan and booking the flight and not just talking about it. And I would also say that it's hard to keep a lot of other relationships because when you do go home, like I found this, like I have so many friends from college and I've just been abroad so long now that it's really hard to keep up with people when I'm home because I don't have a lot of time. It's very limited. So I'm going to work on a way of getting better at that, but I don't have a very good solution at the moment. It's just hard when you're in this phase of life with small kids, limited time, in another country on a different time zone. But yeah, if you pick just a couple really important relationships, then you can make it work. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for anyone listening. And I want to actually extend an invite to you if you're interested in moving abroad, if you're just kind of curious about it. I'm totally open for sharing more. If you have questions and you just want to connect with somebody who's been to a lot of places around the world, has been with their kids quite a bit different places, and um, I'm happy to have a call with you. So I'm gonna link here in this episode just a connection call for 15 minutes. And if you want to connect with me, you can just pick a time. If the times don't work, let me know as well. Sometimes it can be hard if you're like Pacific time. Some of them are a little bit too early in the morning. So just let me know and we'll find a time to chat. But I'm very happy to just share my experience and share anything that might help you plan. If you have more details just about the logistics of stuff, like how do you buy a house abroad? How do you get a work visa? Like, how does that kind of stuff work? How do you open a bank account? Like, I don't know, just some random stuff. And I guess it's going to be different everywhere, but there are a lot of logistics, I guess, when you're thinking about all these things. And it's nice to just connect with someone who's been there. So thank you for listening. And I hope that you find some value in this.